but it was a pure passion project for me. I was really, really passionate about making sure people who had suffered such a traumatic injury had a place to go.
Welcome back to the Spero podcast, where we take storytelling to a whole new level by sharing amazing patient stories, interview experts in the community, and share resources for clinicians and students. So today we have with us a very special guest, Katie Bouchillon. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm good, thank you.
And Katie is the owner and the founder of Spero Rehab. So Katie, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what do you do for fun when you're not working?
Yeah, so I am actually from Florida. I grew up and was raised in Florida, went to graduate school in Florida, and then moved to Houston in 2005 when I took my first job at a neuro rehab hospital here in town. So then I've been in Texas ever since. Lived in Houston for a while and just moved my family out to Austin when they started kindergarten. My kiddos started kindergarten back in 2018. So yeah, I love living here. I do for fun. Right now it's all kids sports. There's not a lot of me time. I have 10-year-old twins, boy and girl twins. So of course they're different sports, different directions all the time. So that's basically my life outside of work is kids sports.
I love that. How do you like living in Austin?
Oh, we love it. We live in a lake community. So we're able to be outside a lot. There's a lot of green space and we can hike with the kids. My kids really thrive in the outdoor space. So we do a lot of hiking and camping and, we're only an hour away from the hill country. So it's really nice to be able to just pick up and go without planning.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And so you're an occupational therapist by trade. Can you talk a little bit about when you knew you wanted to be an OT?
So I was a little bit of an unguided missile through college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had a psychology degree. Moved to Miami, moved to Colorado. I was kind of a free spirit and moved all around for a while. And then my best friend from college was in a car accident and got hit by a drunk driver and suffered a C4 spinal cord injury. And he was at Shepherd Center in Atlanta. And I had lived in Atlanta for a while and part of my circle. So I went up, my parents lived in Atlanta at the time, and I went up and spent a summer up there and really went to therapy with him every day and kind of immersed myself in his care and what that looked like in his rehab, and really connected with the OT side of things, watching him go through rehab. And then I knew from there. So then I moved straight back to Florida and got into OT school within 3 months of having that experience in Atlanta.
Oh my goodness. How is your friend doing now?
He's good. He actually lives independently, has a caregiver that comes in and helps him during the day, but just recently got married. And he's actually doing wonderful. And this was back in 2001. So there's been a lot of advancements in care and stuff since then. So, of course, I put my nose in his business quite often. And I'm like, have you tried this wheelchair? Have you done this? And we stay in touch, obviously, and I help him with some bigger decisions that he makes.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you talk about your career progression? So what settings did you work as an OT? And also, I believe you're an ATP as well.
Mm-hmm. So I actually only had one job out of grad school. My first job was in the medical center at a neuro rehab hospital there at Tier, and I did that for about 4 years. And then I got a little bit frustrated with the system, not the hospital in general, but the healthcare system. I did not love that my patients had nowhere to go after discharge. As us in the neuro world know, the ortho side of physical therapy is much, much different than the neuro side of physical therapy. So our patients would be discharged from the hospital after an acute stay in neuro rehab, and they would have no outpatient clinics to go to. So when they would come back to us for their next stage of admission, they would be worse. They would have joint contractures and they would have gone downhill. So after about 4 years, I kind of just said to my husband, but he was my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, I'm just doing this. I'm going to start it. And he was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, build it. It was kind of a field of dreams moment. And I'm like, we're going to build it and they're going to come. And he's a business guy. And he was like, no, I need to see, let's write a business plan. I want to see where your referrals are coming from and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even know what any of that meant at the time. And I was like, no, I just know there's a need. This is my heart. I'm following my passion. We're just going to do it. So I just did it. I blindly went out and did it. I had never even stepped foot in an outpatient therapy clinic before I opened Spero. I went straight from inpatient rehab. I think I did like a month in the school system when I was trying to open Spero, but that was a terrible stint. That did not work out well for me. Did not love that. So, we just dove right in, and I did Spero, about 4 years after practice. And, it took a solid 2 years to realize this was the right thing to do. I mean, there was many, many sleepless nights. There was sleeping at the gym. There was crying. There was tears in the pool because we just we weren't covering the bills. And then finally, about 2 years later, things started kind of moving in the right direction. But it was a pure passion project for me. I was really, really passionate about making sure people who had suffered such a traumatic injury had a place to go. And for those of you that have been to Spero, I mean, that was my main mission when building Spero. And if you've been to any of the clinics, you can kind of tell that it's set up a little bit different. So community is one of the core, what I call my core values of the company is community. So I wanted the patients to feel and the families to feel like we all had their back, and it was, they could talk to each other. And, the kitchen at one of my clinics is huge, and their patients go have coffee together and families have coffee together. And there's a lot of community that happens inside the clinic. So it's not just, a check-in and families go wait in the car. Right. So I built it to give them a safe space to go through this moment in their life.
I love that. And I think community is the word that we hear over and again every time patients talk about why they enjoy coming to Spero. So I think that mission, that goal that you started for, we see it every day. It's really inspiring.
And, that starts, I think, with my vision was started with the build out and creating this open space. Right. And I'll tell you, one of my moments, my profound moments of this clinic was the patient that made the biggest impact on me, which we can talk about in a minute. He had locked-in syndrome, and he was sitting on a mat, and I was treating him, and he was sitting on a mat and obviously can't speak or anything, completely dependent. And then we have a kid with an ACL tear sitting on a mat right next to him, and they're communicating via my patient's eye gaze computer system. And they had an entire conversation, and I just started bawling, and I'm going to do it again because I was like, this is why I built this, is to take away the stigma for neurologically involved patients, for patients in wheelchairs. And had that interaction never happened, this 16-year-old kid with an ACL tear probably would have looked at him and not been educated at all about the cognitive abilities of our patients, right? I mean, because there's a stigma to this, right? So they had an entire conversation, and I still know that kid, and that kid has now since gone to physical therapy school.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was, of course,
goodness,
10 years ago. But it was a super profound moment. And I was like, this is why I did this. It is a comfortable space where we're taking away the stigma of disability. Right.
That's amazing. And it truly is unique to have ortho and neuro housed under the same rule. You don't see that anywhere else.
Well, and everybody told me not to do it. But everybody told me. I even had a business coach and a mentor of mine that told me, you can't do that. You're going to make some people uncomfortable or other people uncomfortable. And I was like, well, I don't care. Then they're in the wrong place. I had a target of patients I wanted to have in-house, and they were the people that were community minded, right? And if you were uncomfortable, then you don't belong in my place, so I'm and now everybody that we bring in, all of our employees, all of the patients, they're able to adopt and feel that, I think. And that we call it Northo. It's what we've kind of coined it at Spero, is Northo. It's really, really cool. From a community perspective, obviously, but then also from a medical perspective, the biomechanics are the same on a shoulder, whether it's a paralyzed shoulder or, a torn rotator cuff. The biomechanics of the muscles and alignment are the same. So there's a lot of overlap there, which I think our therapists are able to bring to the table and kind of change the approach a little bit that we're doing. And we're obviously having incredible outcomes because of that.
I love it and couldn't
Mhm.
agree more. And so now your company has grown from its first initial location to an additional four more now, three in Austin, another one
Mhm.
in Katy.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about your vision for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so we grew really, really rapidly until COVID. And then obviously the world slowed down with COVID, right? So then since COVID, we've just done one, and now we're kind of on a trajectory back up. Um, my my heart is in the nonprofit space and trying to give back to the community space. So I would really love, it's actually like a 2024 goal, is to really start and launch a nonprofit. And I want the slogan to be something like, no insurance, no problem. Because insurance controls so much of the care we can provide. It's awful. It's really, really awful. And trying to constantly battle the healthcare system and provide the level of care that we want to provide is so hard to do. Since I started Spero in 2010, we have had a 17% overall cut in our reimbursement rates. I mean, that's insane. We can't even afford to treat a patient one on one anymore. So, healthcare is trying to control the level of care that we provide. So, if we're able to launch a nonprofit and start something that can subsidize and help cover those costs so we can provide the level of care that these patients deserve, then that's really where I want to take this. And then we can open as many clinics as we want, as long as we can supplement the patients that need help.
I love that. I love that. I think that's like such a good mission, and I couldn't agree more how frustrating it is to like see that side of healthcare, and it shouldn't be this way. It truly shouldn't. And then when you look at the rates just going down, you're like, after you've just transferred someone that's like max assist, you're like,
Yeah,
oh my
it
goodness.
is truly unbelievable the way insurance is trying to control what these patients can get. It's really sad. When I was still treating full time at the Houston location, I had how old was he at the time? Maybe a 17-year-old kiddo who had a spinal cord injury. He was a C6 spinal cord injury, and he had a private insurance, and they told him he had some sort of like, I don't know, 250 max visits for his whole lifetime. So it wasn't an annual policy. It was like that's it. You've capped out. Like, we will pay for no more therapy for the entirety of your life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now we have this teenager who's going to need rehab for the rest of his life. And his insurance company has capped that. So it's awful. Like, the family had to transfer insurances and get off the dad's business insurance. It's really, really sad. And it's all based on the policy that you pick at the beginning of the year. You got to read those fine details. Um, but we are in an industry which is so crazy where, reimbursements are going down and costs are going up. It's like going this way. So we have to figure out a way specifically in the neuro rehab space where it does cost more to provide care, how to supplement this to allow these people to still get what they need and what they deserve. So it's a constant battle and it's a constant growth. And that's what I do, is now sit behind the computer and try to think of ways that we can still provide the care that we want to, and make ends meet, right?
Yeah. I love how earlier you provided that story of that patient with locked-in syndrome that truly impacted you.
Mm-hmm.
How was it for you going to transition from being a clinician to going to the practice management side of it?
So hard.
Oh,
So I'm a little bit of a control freak. So it actually took me a while to transition out of it. And Amanda, who's our COO now, like, she'll tell you funny stories. Like, when she first came into Spero, I never gave up control of my patients. Like, that was my meaning. My reason was my patients, right? So I was trying to run this business and treat patients full time. And we finally hired Amanda. And once I realized I could trust her with my people, I was like, okay, bye. And I would peer from my office window and I would watch her treatments, and make sure that she was doing right by my patients. But and obviously she's an incredible therapist now. But it took me a really long time. And then once I stepped out of full time patient care, I did a mentorship program for a while. I was involved in some CEU development and that sort of thing. And then as we scaled and grew, like I just ran out of time. I started the company pre marriage and pre kids. So then I had kids and got married and then stopped treating and then was kind of behind a computer all day. But I'm starting to feel that, and I want to get back in the clinical side of things. I think it's important as the owner of a company to get your boots on the ground, as they say. And I think in the past couple of years, we grew so fast and then had to go through COVID that I neglected the human touch side of things for a while, and I can feel it. So that's my 2024 goal, is to kind of get back in there and touch and feel what's really going on and try to make more connections and see how I can help that way.
I love that. What do you think are some things that have helped you make sure that you set like a strong culture? Because that culture is truly evident. Like I'm at the Katie Clinic, so it's so evident where we are. But what do you think helps you like make sure you have that culture?
I think it's the people. So the people we hire, back when we were smaller, I remember interviewing 19 PTs before I hired one of them, because it was so important to me. And this was when there were more PTs in the industry, but it was so important to me to make sure you find the right fit. So it's 100% about the people that we bring on, and our employees and the people that make up the Spero family, right? Like that's the culture, making sure they gel and they jive and that they want to help each other. I think that's really important. And, the core standards and values of Spero, like I keep saying, one of them is community. So you have to have that community spirit, and the teamwork spirit, and want to be part of a bigger family, because that's really what we are. And to carry that culture forward, you have to want to embrace all the madness that comes with a big crazy family.
I love that. And I really like how you circle back. Everything you say, you always circle back to community. Mm-hmm. So looking into like Houston area and Austin area, what are some community organizations, or it can be individuals too, that you feel have been like instrumental in like your journey, or anybody that you would want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so in the Austin market, there's a fantastic nonprofit organization called the Lone Star Paralysis Foundation. And they approached me back in 2016 or 2017 and wanted to offer a community gym for patients with spinal cord injuries, because you can't go to a Gold's Gym or a 24-hour fitness or whatever. The equipment's just not accessible. So they wanted me to help them offer this community gym. So we have a fantastic partnership with those guys, where they help provide some of the equipment, and then we allow the community to come in and use the gym throughout the day. And then they also help us provide higher end robotic equipment and that sort of thing, to stuff that, in business terms, the ROI, the return on investment, just isn't there. So we can't afford to buy a $200,000 robotic device because insurance will not pay us back for it. So it makes no sense. So we can partner with nonprofits like this that will help us purchase this larger equipment. And then we just provide incredible care to, the community. And that's one of the big organizations. There's another great organization called Project Charlie in Austin that's also fantastic. There's a little girl, Charlie, in the community that's unbelievable. And they purchased us a Locomat. So we have one of the only Locomats in Texas at one of our clinics in Austin. So there's a lot of individual nonprofits that are helping us provide really good care, because we could not do it without them, because we just can't afford the equipment. I mean, this is a labor of love, this Spero Rehab. It's a passion project. So it is a month-to-month situation, but with the help of people who have the same passions and nonprofits, they can really help us bridge that gap to be able to provide care for community.
I love that. And circling back to it being a passion project, was coming up with the name hard, or did you like just like think about it one day, like really easily?
Well, I wanted it to be hope, like because that's really what I wanted. I All my patients that were coming back to me early on in my career were hopeless. I mean, they were. It was really kind of sad, like to see them not progress the way that they should. So I knew I wanted it to be something called hope. But then I started Googling it, and there's actually a hope rehab in Katy. I was like, well, can't do that. So then we started looking at it in different languages and stuff. So Spero actually is hope in Latin. And there was a phrase that I saw that kind of triggered the name, and it's Dum Spero Spero, and it means as long as I breathe, I hope. And that's kind of where it came from. And as soon as I saw that word, the way it looked, it spoke to me. And I wanted all my patients to feel that. Like, as long as you're alive, we will help you with the hope part of it.
I love that. Hope is such a powerful word and such a guiding word for it to be a rehab place. It's like
Yeah.
I think hope lives at Spiro, so I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
Now
love
look,
you.
oh, thank you. Now looking into earlier, you gave some great community shout outs. Looking into individuals like closer to you, maybe in your family, anybody that you want to give a shout out to that you're so thankful for.
Oh my God. My sister, who is our CFO of the organization, I called her like pre-opening of Spiro, like when it was, my field of dreams moment. We're going to build it and they're going to come. And I said, I have this crazy idea. Here's what I want to do. And she was in banking. So she worked at a bank for many, many years before that. And I said, will you move? She lived in Mississippi. I said, will you move to Texas and help me? What I'm doing. I don't even know what a profit and loss statement is. I don't know how to apply for a loan. I don't know how to do anything. And she picked up her family, within weeks and moved to Houston, just because she had faith in what we were doing and believed in us. And then obviously my husband, who, despite my madness, he just rolled with it with my field of dreams moment and just rolled with it and supported me through that. And now, like, it took me a while, going back to me being a control freak, to realize that I didn't have to control everything and I could trust people. And so now we have an incredible executive team. I've got Amanda as my COO, and Matt is my CCO, and Dondi is my CFO. And then we have incredible clinical directors. So now, having those people in my inner circle that know and believe in the mission as much as I do, it's so much easier. Like, I breathe so much easier knowing, okay, I trust these people. I don't have to make all the decisions. Amanda is way better at operations than I am. I'm more of the why and she's more of the how. So she can run that map for me. And Matt is so good at marketing and people, so he can run that part. And Donnie's finances, she runs that part. Like, so now all the pieces are starting to fit where we can all come up for air a little bit and do what we're really good at. Because that's one of my big passions is people, right? Like, if you were to say, Katie, what is your main passion? It's people. And I want to get back to helping people find their passion and helping lead them in the direction that they want to go in therapy or not.
And I think I can speak to that too, thinking about like if someone asks me what my favorite thing is about working for Spiro is I feel like your passion is being fueled. It's like truly about like finding out beyond even just patient care, like what do you
Mhm.
like? And I feel like there's just so much professional growth and support around like finding your true passion.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that. I mean, we have almost 70 employees right now. So it's really hard to do that. But that is our mission. I mean, that is one of our true missions, is making sure we're bridging the work-life balance and we're giving people what they want to fulfill their life, both personally and professionally. I think that's so important, because the happier you are in your life, the happier you are at work. And if you're only going to do better by your patients if you are actually happy doing what you're doing. And one of the incredible stories about Marcia, you guys, is she literally came to us and said, with a PowerPoint presentation, which I don't even know how to do a PowerPoint anymore, and said, this is the job I want to create for myself. She comes to me with a PowerPoint presentation of like, here's what I want to, this is what I'm passionate about. I want to create this job for myself. and here's what I'm going to do, and here's how it's going to help the company, and here's how I can make an impact. And I said, okay, great. And she's done an absolutely phenomenal job with it. And I feel like our reach has been so much more profound having you in the role you're doing by doing stuff like podcast and your Instagram and your Facebook and all the things. You're just getting the word out, not just about Spero, but about the neuro world and in whole. And like, these are the things that are out there that you guys should be looking for to get better. It's so cool.
Oh, thank you for letting me run with that. And also, like, the shout out goes to my husband because he's the one that I was talking to him one day and he was like, you just don't know if you don't ask. And I was like, I feel like it's just crazy to ask your boss. And he was like, just ask. And so, shout out to him. And like, you guys are amazing. So, thank you for letting me run with that.
Oh, I love it. You've done an incredible job and it's been awesome.
Thank you. Do you have any tips on how to balance like motherhood and running a business and doing all the things?
Nope. You just tread water really fast. I mean, no, there's really no secret to it. You just kind of go with the flow. I mean, I think that would be my biggest advice is like in life in general, right? You just got to roll with the punches and take it. You know, I'm really strong in my faith, so there's a lot there. My kids are super supportive. My kids basically grew up inside Spero because I was still treating full time at the time. So there's pictures everywhere of like my little kids when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside the walls of Spero. And now, I think it's about putting the right people in place to help you. Right. So now that I have exec teams, now that we have clinical directors, it's a lot easier to manage my work-life balance. Once I relinquish a little bit of control and I was like, it is okay because I trust these people with the mission, that helps with a lot of balance. But Lord have mercy, when you've got kids running in different directions, like it is exhausting. There's no secret to that.
This non-advice was a really good advice. I love that. Katie, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you would want to mention?
No, I don't think so. I think, you've done a very good job kind of getting to the heart of why we do what we do. And I think for everybody, like finding your passion is, if somebody asked me, what is the purpose of life? That would probably be my answer, is just find your passion and be able to spread that joy and hope to other people. Right. And I think you bringing light to some of this stuff and us being able to provide care to some of these patients that can't really go anywhere else and get the care they need. I think that's all really important. So I think and that's what I did. I blindly followed my passion to start Spero, and luckily it's worked out for me. But you just got to take the first step in anything you do and just keep moving forward and ask. You're a great example of just ask the question. The worst they can say is no.
That's true. That's very true. Thank you so much for your time, Katie.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really enjoyed being on here. I'm honored.
Thank you.
Yeah.